The Gospel of Matthew, chapter 27. Today we're going to take a journey through one of the most powerful chapters in the Bible, the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 27. This chapter is a crucial part of the Christian faith because it details the trial, crucifixion, and burial of Jesus Christ. But more than just a historical account, the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 27, is filled with profound lessons about betrayal, injustice, sacrificial love, and the redemption that flows through forgiveness and faith. It's a story that not only challenges our hearts, but also inspires us to live differently. My goal is to walk us through these moments and unpack the deeper meaning of each one, so we can carry these lessons with us and let them transform our lives. The betrayal and remorse of Judas. The chapter opens with a familiar yet tragic figure, Judas Iscariot. Judas has betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, and now, realizing the gravity of his actions, he is overcome with guilt. In his remorse, he tries to return the silver to the chief priests, confessing, "I have sinned, for I have betrayed innocent blood." But the religious leaders dismiss him. Feeling hopeless, Judas takes his own life. This is a heartbreaking moment, and it teaches us a profound truth. Remorse without repentance leads to despair. Judas's story shows us the importance of turning to God in our guilt and seeking his forgiveness rather than being consumed by shame. No matter what we've done, God's grace is always available, but we must be willing to accept it. Jesus before Pilate. Jesus is then taken to stand trial before Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor. Pilate is a key figure here, a man caught between the truth he knows and the pressure of the crowd. Jesus remains calm and composed, offering very little in his defense. Pilate even questions him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus responds, "You have said so." What strikes us here is Jesus' silence. He doesn't try to defend himself against the false accusations. This is a powerful reminder of his humility and his willingness to fulfill his mission. Meanwhile, Pilate, knowing Jesus is innocent, tries to appease the crowd by offering to release either Jesus or Barabbas, a notorious criminal. The crowd chooses Barabbas. This moment shows the fickleness of public opinion and the danger of valuing approval over truth. Pilate washes his hands, symbolizing his refusal to take responsibility, but it doesn't change the fact that he played a part in condemning an innocent man. How often do we, like Pilate, hesitate to stand up for what's right because of fear or pressure? The mocking of Jesus. After Pilate hands Jesus over, the soldiers take him and mock him cruelly. They place a crown of thorns on his head, drape him in a scarlet robe, and kneel before him in mock worship, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews." They spit on him, strike him, and humiliate him in every way possible. This is a scene of extreme injustice, and yet Jesus does not respond with anger or bitterness. He endures it all with grace. This part of the chapter teaches us about the nature of true strength. Strength is not always found in fighting back. Sometimes it's found in enduring, in patience, in trusting that God's justice will prevail in the end. It reminds us to hold on to our dignity and faith, even when the world mocks or rejects us. The Crucifixion. The chapter continues with the heartbreaking scene of Jesus carrying his cross to Golgotha, the place of the skull. Along the way, Simon of Cyrene is forced to help carry the cross, showing that even in the most difficult moments, God often places people in our path to help bear the burden. At Golgotha, Jesus is nailed to the cross between two criminals. Above his head, a sign reads, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." The people mock him, saying, "If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." Even the criminals beside him join in the taunts. But Jesus remains silent. This moment, Jesus hanging on the cross, is the most profound act of love in history. He is bearing the sins of the world, including ours. And in the midst of his suffering, Jesus says, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." This is the ultimate example of forgiveness. Jesus teaches us that no matter how deeply we've been wronged, we are called to forgive just as he forgave those who crucified him. Reflect on this. Where in our lives do we need to extend forgiveness? How can we show the same grace to others that Jesus shows to us? The death of Jesus. At noon, darkness falls over the land for 3 hours as Jesus hangs on the cross. At about 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cries out in a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?" This cry echoes the deep anguish of separation from God that Jesus experienced in this moment. It is a reminder that sin separates us from God, and Jesus took on that separation for our sake. He was abandoned so that we never have to be. With his final breath, Jesus says, "It is finished," signifying that the work of salvation has been completed. At that moment, the earth shakes, rocks split, and the curtain of the temple is torn in two. The curtain was what separated the Holy of Holies, the presence of God, from the rest of the temple. Its tearing represents that through Jesus' death, we now have direct access to God. The barriers between us and him have been broken. This is the heart of the gospel. Through Jesus, we are no longer separated from God, but are invited into his presence, forgiven and restored. The burial of Jesus. After his death, Joseph of Arimathea, a follower of Jesus, bravely asked Pilate for Jesus' body. He wraps it in clean linen and places it in his own new tomb. A large stone is rolled in front of the entrance, and guards are placed there to ensure no one tampers with the body. This might seem like the end of the story, but we know it is not. What seems like a moment of defeat is actually the setup for the greatest victory. Jesus' burial reminds us that even when it looks like hope is lost, God is working behind the scenes. In our own lives, we may face situations that feel final, where it seems like all is lost. But just as the resurrection that is coming, God often brings new life from the darkest places. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 27, it's a chapter filled with pain, betrayal, and suffering. But it's also a chapter that reveals the depth of Jesus' love for us. It challenges us to think about how we respond to injustice, to reflect on the power of forgiveness, and to trust that even in our darkest moments, God is at work. Jesus' death was not the end. It was the beginning of a new way of living, one that calls us to love without limits, to forgive without hesitation, and to trust in God's plan, even when we can't see it. Now, as we leave here today, let's carry these lessons with us. Let's ask ourselves, where can I forgive more deeply? Where can I show more love? Where can I stand firm in my faith, even when it feels like the world is against me? And most importantly, how can I trust God's plan for my life, knowing that even when things seem dark, His light is just around the corner? And remember, the story of the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 27, isn't just about death. It's about the victory that comes through sacrifice. It's about the love that conquers all. So let's live out our lives in response to that love, knowing that through Christ we are forgiven, restored, and called to live with purpose. Thank you. Tomorrow we'll discuss chapter 28.